There is an oil crisis in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and it is so severe that it got me to get my ass off of Dota 2 just so that I can make this video. The Edmonton Oilers are not doing well right now. Despite having two of the best players in the NHL today, it has not stopped them from licking their own titties. But before I go more in depth on that, let's talk about the expectations. Before the season even started, they were expected to be one of the favorites for the Stanley Cup. In fact, they were the favorites. They had McDavid, they had Draisaitl, and they were going to bring Lord Stanley back to Canada for the first time since 1993. And in the process, they were going to solidify themselves as the new big dogs of the NHL, that they were going to run the yard for years to come and potentially become the next dynasty. And it was all going to start in Vancouver against the Canucks. The Oilers were going to have a statement win that would show that this is their year and would serve as a warning to all other teams who would dare try to oppose. They got destroyed 8-1. Now, if this was just a one-time thing, a little stumble on the road to Stanley Cup gloriness, then I wouldn't be making this video. But as of right now, they currently sit at the bottom of the standings, tied for the least points in the NHL with the San Jose Sharks, which, don't worry, I'll get to that. So what exactly has gone wrong for the supposed Stanley Cup favorites? Well, I'm not going to explain it as well as some other more smarter hockey people, but I'll do my best. Now, since this is the Oilers, let's go ahead and get the obvious issue out of the way. The goaltending. It seemed last season they finally found their answer to their goaltending woes in this guy named Stuart Skinner, who was a top 20 goaltender last season. And that was his first season with more than 20 games, which meant odds are he was only going to improv and get betterer. Now, of course, one bad season isn't going to change the trajectory of his career. It could just be growing pains and all, but goddamn, this has not been a good season for him. At all. His save percentage has dropped from a pretty good .914 to a not as good .854, and his GA has increased an entire 1 from last season. I know 1 doesn't really sound like a lot, but I promise it is. So yeah, Stuart Skinner, not really having a good time. But hey, he's still having a better time than the other guy. Jack Campbell. Oh boy, this is the guy Edmonton paid money to fix their goaltending woes, unlike Stewart, who was just, a random rookie. He was supposed to be the brick wall that would come in and save the day, and to say he hasn't been that would be like saying, I couldn't think of an analogy, I'm sorry. For Jackie Boy, it's been so bad that the Edmonton Oilers have had no choice but to put him on waivers. After signing a 5-year deal with the team, he will now be playing for the Bakersfield Condors in the foreseeable future. So yeah, Skinner and Superintendent Campbell, they're both doo-doo dung-dung. If they had to choose between making a big save or letting the world be destroyed by a giant asteroid, they would choose to make that big save, but they would fail and we would all die anyway. But in their defense, they don't have good defense helping them out there. Yeah, the Edmonton Oilers defense has also not been very good. The type of defense Jay Woodcroft has the team playing is called zone coverage. It is a type of defense that requires a lot of something that I'm not good at: communication. So sometimes when trying to pull this D off, someone on the team will miscommunicate or mishear, and that would lead to someone messing up, which would then lead to other people messing up, and eventually these mess-ups would snowball into absolute disaster, usually leading to a goal from the other team. Which, that's fine. Every once in a while, even the best players on the best teams are gonna mess up, miscommunicate, mishear, all that stuff. Humans are humans, we fuck up all the time. That doesn't mean we can't make fun of other people for messing up, by the way. But the Oilers have been doing this mess up over and over and over again, and it's been leading to goal after goal after goal, which then translates to loss after loss after loss. But hey, maybe they can at least defend the rush. Oh, you silly little mongoose. According to this stat tweeted out by Mike Kelly, which is probably outdated now because it was tweeted a while ago, the Oilers are ranked dead last in goal differential off the rush. Last season, when they were not sucky-wucky, they had a +18 goal differential off the rush, and now this season, when they are sucky-wucky, they have a -13 dead last behind the Sharks. To further prove that this might be an important stat, the Vancouver Canucks on the other end have the second best differential at +10, when last season they had a -16 differential. And would you look at that, last season the Canucks were pretty bad, and now this season they're one of the best teams in the NHL. How convenient. And you know what, since I brought up the Canucks, let's just go ahead and talk about that one game. Not too long ago, the Oilers had a chance to redeem themselves after being treated like puppets puppy chowed by the Canucks in the Oilers' first 2 games. And it started pretty damn well for Edmonton. They had a 1-0 lead against Vancouver, which again, 1 doesn't sound like much, but the Oilers were dominating offensively, kicking ass and chewing bubblegum and running out of gum, and you can clearly see it through Edmonton's 19 shots on goal to Vancouver's puny 2 shots on goal. That's a pretty big shot differential. The difference between 19 and 2 is only 1 year under the age of consent. The Oilers were dominating. They were wicked sick. They had all of the momentum in their favor, and it all came crumbling down. The Canucks would proceed to score a goal off of their next shot on goal, and then their next shot on goal, leading to a 2-1 lead for the Canucks, with the shots on goal being Edmonton 19, Vancouver 4. And the Oilers just never recovered from it. They lost the game 6-2, and Jay Woodcroft got ejected. So let's recap what we've learned about the Oilers. The goaltending, Garbo. The defense, also Garbo. But let's look on the bright side. They still have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Those 2 are beasts. They are 2 of the best players in the NHL today, maybe even the 2 best, so surely throughout this entire dumpster fire of a season, there is at least them to shine a small glimmer of light. Right? I'm afraid I've got some bad news. That's my Wade Barrett impersonation. I hope you liked it. Let's start with the power play. Last season, it was incredible. Historic even. Edmonton was scoring a power play goal every 3 power plays, which, that's amazing. But now what was once easily the best power play in the NHL has now become barely in the top 9. From a 32.4 power play percentage to now a measly 23.9 power play percentage, which, that's still 1 power play goal every 4 power plays. I guess that's still good, and they are still in the top 10. And if it was any of these seasons, they would still have the best power play percentage. But it is a massive downgrade from what once was a glorious PP. Now a quick gander at Connie McFetty. So far, he has 2 goals and 8 assists for a combined total of 10 points 12 games into the season, which for Connor McDavid standards is awful. You're telling me that this man who was playing heads over shoulders over everyone else the past seasons to the point where people started calling him McJesus is now only scoring 1 point per game? For fuck's sake, he isn't even the top scorer named Connor right now. It's got me thinking that maybe he's not at 100% because I remember him going out with an injury not too long ago and then returning a little later for the Battle of the Battle of Alberta, so does he need more time to recover? And the numbers seem to back me up on this one because of those 10 points, most of them were before the injury, and since coming back from it, he has yet to score a goal. Leon Draisaitl hasn't been faring much better either. Just like the Oilers' PP, he is barely in the top 10 in like a race with a bunch of other people for that. Normally, Draisaitl would be up there with McDavid at the tippy top of the mountain. In the past 5 seasons, he had been in the top 5 in point scoring, and now he's racing just to get in the top 10. Yeah, McDavid is a great player, but so is Leon. He should still be scoring these points with or without a healthy McDonkey. So to sum it up, Leon and Connor, they're not doing so well, and neither is the Edmonton Oilers as a whole. They were supposed to be a guaranteed Stanley Cup contender, and so far, they're not even close to even making the playoffs. And all of these things that I've talked about, all of these things that are wrong with them, that they need to fix, they've all culminated together, fused together to create the ultimate disaster. Remember earlier when I said we would be getting back to the Sharks? Tied for the least points in the NHL with the San Jose Sharks, which don't worry, I'll get to that. Well, here we are. On November 9th, 2023, the Edmonton Oilers went down to San Jose to try and turn their season around against the Sharks. Calling the Sharks bad would be an understatement. Some have been calling this the worst team they had ever watched. They had started the season 0-11 and gave up 10 goals in back-to-back games. And in one of those games, the Canucks scored 10 goals in that game before the Sharks could score 10 goals all season. They were 10 games into the season at that point, and this game that they were going to have against the Oilers, it had become must-watch for the hockey world. It was David versus should-have-been Goliath. The stoppable force meets the should-have-been immovable object. Hockey fans were excited for this game because they wanted to see if the Oilers could do it, the unthinkable. They wanted to see if they, the once favorites for the Stanley Cup, were going to give the Sharks their first win of their second win of the season. I know it's not as funny, but it is what it is. And my God, It was beautiful. It was like watching poetry in motion. It was as if Leonardo da Vinci was stroking his brush across the canvas methodically and elegantly so that he could create the perfect portrait of dog shit. It felt as though every single moment in human history, from building the pyramids to discovering the Americas to landing on the moon to creating Adventure Time, it was all building up for this one beautiful day, because they did it. They lost to the San Jose Sharks, the Edmonton Oilers. After all of the hype, all of the expectations, they were now tied with the Sharks at the bottom of the standings. And it was beautiful, especially in Calgary. So yeah, that was fucking hilarious. Now, moral of the story, the Oilers, they are not good right now. They are bad. I'm probably repeating myself over and over again by saying that, but it's true. They are really bad, and I personally could not be happier. Being a Flames fan myself, I naturally despise everything about the Oilers and am enjoying seeing them in the mud. And especially since the Flames season hasn't gone much better, I can at least look at the Oilers sucking ass to distract myself from the reality that the Flames also suck ass. However, keep in mind, just because they suck right now doesn't mean they're not gonna suck so much that they won't miss the playoffs. I mean, they won a game against the Kraken and they fired Jay Woodcroft, so perhaps they're gonna turn it around? Hopefully not. Oh, and thanks for winning that game against the Kraken, Oilers. Now that thing I said about you being tied with the Sharks for worst record in the league, that's false now. Thank you. You couldn't have just waited until after I got this video out. So, yeah, that's about it. This video was a lot longer than I expected it to be, but yeah, the Oilers, they suck, and I hope they continue to suck. But also, I don't want them to suck too much because I don't want them to get Macklin Celebrini. Goodbye. So now, where is the enemy? I can feel nobody.